Are you looking at all my books? Oh, thank you. Oh yes, thank you. Are you looking at all my books, Lola? Are you deciding what to read? Yeah, that's all poetry. Do you like poetry, huh? I think she's a bit overwhelmed with all of the books. Hi guys, I'm here today with part 1 of my August wrap up. In the past 2 weeks I've read 2 graphic novels, 1 short story collection, 1 literary journal, 1 novella, 1 novel and 1 short story on its own that was packaged in a little pamphlet. The first book that I read was The Faster I Walk the Smaller I Am by Kirsty Sconvold, and this is just the dust jacket because my boyfriend's reading it at the moment, so he has the actual book. I keep the dust jacket behind so that it doesn't get damaged. I do it with myself too, not just him. It's not that I don't trust him. So this is a short Norwegian novel that's been translated, and I thought it was absolutely wonderful. It made me laugh. It made me cry. I mentioned it in my 10 books that you probably haven't read video, which I will link down below. It is about a woman called Mattia who lives at home. She hates leaving her flat, but sometimes she will force herself to do that. She thinks that no one can see her anymore. She thinks almost that she doesn't exist, and she needs to have interactions with strangers on the street to validate her existence. There is a very hilarious and tragic incident of a dog that she once owned. It's really dark humour. Often, as is the case when you have books that have humour like this, they end up saying quite deep things about life and existence, and I thought it was really beautiful read, and I would highly recommend it. The next novel that I read was Gilead by Marilyn Robinson, which I'm not going to talk much about because I've done a full review video which I will link down below, but I read this primarily because Lila, which is the 3rd in this series, has been nominated for the Man Booker Prize this year, and I am reading all of the long list this year as part of the Man Booker Vloggers campaign, and I wanted to read this before I read the long-listed one, so I did, and it is about a pastor who is writing a letter to his son because he knows that he's dying. It's set in the 1950s in America, kind of a family history, but mostly philosophical about what it means to exist and what it means to think about religion and our perceptions versus reality. I thought it was a really well-crafted book and a really good read. The next book, or pamphlet, that I read was These Foolish Things by Yo Weiwei, which was given to me by a lovely viewer called Connie, who visited my bookshop. She was in the UK over from Singapore, and she brought me a few gifts, which was really not necessary, but really sweet of her, and this was one of them. And it's published by, it's an Ethos chapbook. It's very short, it's only 20 pages, it's magical realism. It's about a woman who's died and her spirit travels home in an umbrella. Well, she has to make her spirit travel home in an umbrella to get back to her husband, who she discovers has remarried. I thought like bits of it were very beautiful. It's maybe not the kind of style that I would normally go for as much as I love magical realism. However, I do really like it when publishers publish things like that. It's like when Mark Forsyth's The Unknown Unknown was published, which is a little pamphlet about why he loved bookshops, because obviously they're not going to sell lots, but I think really great like tasters into literature. So it was really lovely of her to give that to me, and thank you, Connie, if you're watching. The next book I read was Diving Bells by Lucy Wood, and I have really, I've been trying to have a conversation with myself about how I feel about this book, because I can't fault it. I can't, and it's beautiful, but maybe I'm cold-hearted. I don't know, because the book is so beautiful and it's so well put together, but I think maybe with the stories it's the same kind of beauty, and the stories kept on kind of bleeding into one in my head. Now this, as you could say with any book, could also be to do with the way I was reading it. I read it over quite a prolonged period of time, so I always think maybe books are better if you read them quite, you know, in a short space of time so that you can really devour them and experience them properly. This one was spread out, but normally I don't have a problem with that when it's a short story collection, so I don't really know. I don't know. Like, basically, this is really beautiful writing. It's a gorgeous book, but it didn't fill me with the love that I hoped I would have for it, and this kind of makes me sad. But there were some stories in here that I absolutely adored. The one that I loved the most was, I should say what it is first, shouldn't I? That would be helpful. That well done, Jen. This is a collection of short stories that are inspired by old fairy tales of Cornish folklore. That's what they are. There we go. My favourites were the first two. The first one being the title poem, short story, Diving Bells, which is about women's husbands who get stolen by mermaids and they go out to sea, and you can rent a diving bell and go look for them under the water. And it was really eerie, and yeah, no, I really, really like that one. And then the second one is called Countless Stones, and it's about a group of statues who are people, and they live on a cliff top, and every so often the people in the village will feel their limbs seizing up, and they know that they're turning to stone, so they have to call work, say they're not going to be coming in that day, for how long they're not sure, and they walk up to the cliff top where they stand and wait to turn into stone. And then it could be a few days, it could be a few months, it could be years before they are brought back to life again and can go about their life again. I thought the story was really touching because the main character, who's feeling herself turning to stone, is communicating with a past boyfriend that she had, that she's broken up with, that she's communicating with, and they're not going to get back together anymore. But there's almost these lingering feelings, like she's at this point in her life where she's trying to move forward but she can't because her heart is still attached to him in some way. And I thought that was really personified by the fact that she was turning to stone, like she was standing still in her life. So yes, I really found those beautiful. The other ones are beautiful too. I just, as a whole, I don't know. Someone explain it to me, because I know she's an absolutely wonderful writer and I'm looking forward to reading her novel, and I'm really glad that I read this. I just thought I was going to fall in love with it, and overall I don't think I did, though I did fall in love individually. I dipped in and out of love with this book. I'm going to stop talking now because I'm not even sure I'm making sense. The next book that I read is this, and it's a literary journal, and it's Cake Train, and this is issue 6. It's one of my favourite American poetry literary journals because they publish really experimental prose poetry and flash fiction, and I really love it. And as with anything with this, there's going to be stuff that you're not going to love and things that you're going to like more than others, because it's a whole host of people writing within a book, but it's a great way to discover new people who you might want to go check out more of their work. And yeah, I love it, and it's very surreal as well. Magical realism, surrealism, all of that in here. Possibly my favourite. Don't like picking favourites. Possibly my favourite was two pieces by Danielle Wheeler, two pieces of flash fiction, and you'll probably see if I read out a bit why I love them so much. But the first one is called Star Arranging. It says, there were 7 in the group, marking the tent and marking the path and carrying plastic for the water. They wore vests and called out for blue rolls of paper with white dots. They packed lightly. I was leading off the trail. Tomorrow we will move to another part of the forest. I have been here for so long. I have the brambles hanging in the window and the grey pears set to harden in the sun, and a pack of old trees that follow me everywhere. Also, I get hungry in the woods. I don't have a telescope and miss much of the sky, and things were written on the ceiling of the cabin that I could not understand. I lived with the bear. We have our own language. What some people call the wood, we call forest. It is also copse, like the word corpse, which means I am dead. I have been so tired lately. All the chatter comes from my own brain. We braid the tails of fish and know what to do should we see a deer. I'm not trying to tell a story. The day is like any other. The next book that I read was The Adventuress by Audrey Niffenegger, which made me sad because it's my last Audrey Niffenegger, so now I've read everything and now I have to wait for her to bring out more things. So this is kind of a fairy tale-esque graphic novel, really beautiful. I'm going to leave a link down to my video, 10 books you probably haven't read, because I did close-ups of the book there with the illustrations inside. So if you want to know more about it, head over to that video there. So finally, I read this graphic novel, which is Everything is Teeth by Evie Wilde and Jo Sumner, and I rushed out to the shops to buy it the day it came out on August the 6th because I really love Evie's writing. She wrote All the Birds Singing. She runs a bookshop in South London. I talked to her when I was doing the Bookshop book. She's interviewed in it. And yeah, she's just a great writer, and this is her first graphic novel and I was really intrigued by it. It's autobiographical. She's from Australia and it's her growing up being terrified of sharks, and she's always imagining terrible things that are going to happen to her family. She's a very passive character and she's drawn as just observing everything. She's soaking everything up like a sponge and everything terrifies her, and she always imagines the worst case scenario. And really I was reminded of myself when I was little reading this, and sometimes still now, just internalising everything and getting, you know, really scared. It's absolutely gorgeous, and she's walking along the street and imagining that sharks are following her. So it's not just about the sea, it's everything, everywhere. Basically, she just has a complex that something bad is going to happen. And yes, it's all to do with the relationships that she has with her family as well. In the way that I didn't fall in love with Diving Bell so much because it didn't, you know, grab my heart and squeeze it, this did. So I don't know. I can't explain it. I can only tell you how I feel, and I really love this. Yes, so those are all the books that I've read over the past 2 weeks. I will be uploading another video this week, a little chat video where I'm talking about the events that I'm doing book-wise and writing-wise and everything else that's going on. I've got a lot of stuff going on at the moment and I'm a little bit stressed, but in a good way. Can you be stressed in a good way? No, I am. It's a bit hectic. So I would like to talk you through some of the things that are going on with me at the moment. So that'll be coming up in the next day or so. Yesterday, I uploaded a video of me reading a poem called Origins, which I will also link down below if you want to go check it out. And I will be uploading also my individual reviews of the Man Booker books as I am reading them. So yes, that is everything. I have to go now because I have to go to work, and I will speak to you guys very, very soon. Let me know what you've been reading in the comments down below. If you've read any of these, let me know, or if you'd like to check them out, that would be great. And I will speak to you guys later. Lots of bookish love. Bye.